Awesome Writer Review.
Hey YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Time for my next top 5 things I want to see out of Power Rangers 2020 stuff. This is the actual idea that first inspired it, which was the top 5 things I want to see out of the comics in 2020. Like I said in the previous video from last week, I wanted to start with the more broad category, but this is going to be dedicated sort of more broadly some things I would like to see from the Power Rangers comics this year, 2020. So, number 5. Now, before I start this one, just in case, I'm a couple issues behind on the main comic and Go-Go. So if anything that I'm about to say actually has happened, that's not my fault. It's Barry's fault. My number 5 is I'd like to see something made of Beyond the Grid. And when I say that, I mean Beyond the Grid was honestly such a disappointment. Like, there were some cool aspects and cool ideas of it, but I felt it was the biggest disappointment we've had in the comics so far. And after we got from Shattered Grid to now Necessary Evil, which feels on par with each other and a great continuation, Beyond the Grid felt like an unnecessary detour. So I would love to see something be made of it. And by that I don't mean I don't want us to do Beyond the Grid 2.0. I would just like to see the current writers sort of make use of something that happened there to maybe retroactively make it more important and maybe salvage some of the cool ideas with some better writing. Again, maybe they did something in the most recent issues, but I'm a few behind. I just wanted to say that. But even if they have done something, just in general, I think there's cool ideas out of that I'd like to see brought back under better writing and art that didn't look like a mutant as having its face sucked up by a vacuum. Number 4 is I don't want to see anything from Draken for a while. Like, I know that his actions are causing the consequences of Necessary Evil, and again, I'm a few behind, so I don't know whether he's appeared or not. I don't think he has, but just to cover myself, again, it's Barry's fault. I don't mind the idea of seeing repercussions from Shattered Grid all throughout this year in whatever they want to do. And I'm not opposed to us ever seeing Draken again. I think that there could be some interesting angles with certain things with that, but that was such a major thing and I liked it so much, I don't want it to become oversaturated, and I'm just worried that they're going to want to bring him back physically. But I just don't want to see that for at least a year. Like I said, in the history of time, I wouldn't mind them revisiting that from any such angle, but I'd like to see them take a break from anything Draken related outside of the consequences that he caused with the Shattered Grid event. Speaking of, for number 3, is more effects from Shattered Grid, meaning when we first got to the end of the issue, it honestly made it sound like the whole timeline of Boom Power Rangers had changed, and now it seems more like, I mean, we're definitely seeing some diversions of what we know is supposed to happen, like with the Omega Rangers having initially defeated Zed and all that stuff, and I think that that's showed some divergence in the Omega Rangers and stuff, although for all we know that could have always happened in the Boom timeline in some form. But you know what I mean. We've kind of just seen it more like, okay, this is all caused by these characters being given powers by the morphing grid from the Shattered Grid stuff. But I would love to see in other issues, like maybe some annual issues or standalone things that might explore how it affected other seasons. Because I think it would be cool, the idea of it actually changing some of the narrative of other seasons. Like, I always think about that line in the Shattered Grid finale where one of the emissaries said, you know, we're going to be able to fix time, but it's not going to be able to go back exactly the way it was. You know, speaking of Barry, it's like that metaphor that Jay Garrick Flash used for him, where he like breaks the teacup and he's like, yeah, you can glue it, but it's never going to be quite the same. And I'd love to look at like, oh, let's look at a Lightspeed Rescue, and then maybe something changed there. Like maybe somebody else's, maybe Ryan never got kidnapped. Like maybe let's do Lost Galaxy. What if Mike did take back the Red Ranger powers? Stuff like that. Like not exactly, but just kind of give you an idea of like visiting a series where the timeline changed in a small way and exploring different avenues because of Shattered Grid. Or just generally, I think that has a lot of potential to open up various what-if scenarios across the PR universe that I think would be cool to explore. Maybe a bit of a pipe dream, but it's something I've wanted. Number 2, sort of, this was also on the Power Rangers, the things I want from Power Rangers list, is I want to see more non-MMPR stories. Again, I'll keep this short since I said it in the other video, but I don't think we're going to be getting anytime soon any long-running comic series like Go-Go or the main series, but something like a standalone graphic novel. I know we have the Ranger Slayer one, that doesn't really count though. Or, you know, a mini-series or just stories in the annual. I'd love to see more non-MMPR stories as much as possible. I know it's kind of difficult, and I understand people's frustration with it only being MMPR, because don't get me wrong, I'm sick of seeing MMPR everywhere, not just the comics, but I kind of understand it for the comics because in order to keep it selling, they almost have to right now, because I feel that they're getting in the more casual audience because of the MMPR name. And even though I'd love to see them branch out, because obviously that's on my list, I'm not as mad as I usually am about MMPR just washing over everything because the stories are so good, and in a way it's giving us a better version of MMPR, but I would still like to see them expand upon it. I mean, I would like to see a feature where we could do both. We could have this MMPR comic that expands on things for the casuals, and then something a little bit more for the hardcore fans as well. Number one is, this is like an obvious one, but keep the quality up, and by that I don't just mean in general, which I do mean, keep the quality up. What I mean is like Shattered Grid, I mean honestly, to be honest, from the very beginning of the comic, through the original Black Dragon, Draken arc to Shattered Grid, was very consistent. I'm not saying it was absolutely all amazing, but it was very consistent writing-wise, and it all flowed together nicely. And then we hit this oddball that was Beyond the Grid, which was filled with cool ideas, but was just kind of poopy, to be honest. And then we got Necessary Evil, which feels absolutely on par with the quality and investment that I had. And so I'm hoping that as we go into the year, as we go through Necessary Evil and whatever arcs might follow, even if we change writers, I'm hoping we don't because I like the writers we have, but I'd like to see us not have such an alarming quality drop. Because we had like this huge Shattered Grid event that was so amazing, and all this build up, and then we were like, oh, this Beyond the Grid's gonna be the next thing, and then it was like, it really lowered everyone's enthusiasm until Necessary Evil returned, and I'd like to not see, I guess all comics are gonna have that, but I'm just hoping that we don't have another one of those where the quality dips and it feels so disjointed. But that's about it for this one, guys. What do you want to see from the Power Rangers comic in the coming year? More MMPR, less MMPR, somewhere in the middle? What characters would you like to see focused on? Get solo stories and stuff like that. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps, and ring that bell so you can get notifications for my videos. Till next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.